Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Epidose of the Ketogenic Fasting Project. I'm Tom. I'm a full-time carnivore, and tonight I am talking about something I like to do, and I said I would make a video about it. One of the things I do is I frequently review information from opposing points of view. In this case, sort of a vegan inspiration video. It happened to be a video called Preach Compassion, spoken word, posted by a YouTuber known as MissDoonaQueen. And I commented on her video, and she challenged me. Let me share the this is a screen capture of the video coming up here. So this is what the video kind of looks like. You can see here. You can find on YouTube and watch it yourself. I watched the video and then I left these comments. Oops. Now, I don't engage vegans to pick a fight. I don't feel like starting an argument so much as a discussion. I kind of look at it like we're all sort of the victims of bad information. And a lot of what I understand now, I come to understand more recently in the last few years. So I completely understand how people might have a different mindset and a different collection of information, as it were, or might have been subject to different propaganda. So I get it. And I think for a lot of people, they start hearing about people like myself that just eat meat. You know, I think it's very extreme, and it might be completely outside their experience, because it wasn't that long ago. It was completely outside my experience. So I chose to engage this person in a conversation, and they engage back. A lot of times vegans don't. That you might get one comment and you post something and you never hear from them again. But we're having a thoughtful and respectful conversation. And she requested I watch Earthlings, which is a well-known vegan film. I mean, I call it propaganda. Maybe some people might call it a documentary or something like that. It's really sort of a horror show, sort of like MissDoonaQueen's video. It shows the bad side of everything. Don't really know where the footage comes from. You know, she kind of makes the argument that, you know, if you see something happen to an animal you wouldn't want to have happen to you, then it shouldn't happen. She encourages people to think of livestock just like their pets. She implies that eating meat is destroying the planet. It's causing cancer, heart disease, all the usual suspects that we hear about. So anyways, just lost my notes, which is unfortunate, but I'll get them right back. And we can go on with the slides. So anyways, the film I watched on is called Earthlings. The thumbnail for it doesn't really look like this, so it might be, you might wonder if you're finding the right one or not. This is what the thumbnail looks like. So this is the thumbnail of the film that I watched, and this is really what the title screen looks like. So if you come across that you found the one I watched, which I believe is the one she recommended I watch. So like I said, it's basically a horror show. It's the kind of stuff you expect. It's end-to-end animals being mistreated. Doesn't really talk much about, you know, health consequences or anything like that, which she you know, says in her video that, you know, basically, you know, heart disease, diabetes, you know, stuff like that is caused by eating meat. implying that if we don't eat meat, we won't get those diseases. Now, I've compiled a lot of information on a website called carnivoreinfo.com. Everything is kind of filed by category, sort of in a conversational um, style. That's so there's a lot of these topics are already filed there with links. Links go to videos, they go to studies, like you're going to find links that go to PubMed, PLOS One, and other places where scientific papers or studies are published. So I went there to sort of um, pull up some of the data that I'm going to share in this video. Um, Now, when it comes to animals in general, I don't think anybody wants animals to be mistreated. I mean, the person who does is probably the rare person. And I think things have changed a lot over time. You know, like Temple Grandin has a series on YouTube called Glass Walls, showing, you know, how the changes and particularly in slaughterhouses and stuff like that have matured over time. I know the video Earthlings, it shows animals being mistreated left and right, elephants in the circus, and you know, I don't know, they're, you know, the Japanese were harvesting dolphins for food, and the dolphins were, you know, out of the water and on pavement. They were like, oh, these dolphins are suffocating. I'm like, no, they're bleeding to death. You know, dolphins breathe air because they're mammals like us. That's why they have that blowhole, no gills. But and then school children were walking by and they made a big deal about that. And I'm thinking, well, those school children know where their food comes from, and that's part of the problem. A lot of people don't know where their food comes from, and they don't have a chance to get used to the idea. Because, of course, my belief is that meat has always been our food. There's archaeological evidence that we've been butchering large animals for 3.7 million years. And when I say we, I mean human beings and the hominids that preceded us. And I think we became human beings because we ate meat. It inspired the mutations and the adaptations by making protein and fat available. So we clearly were breaking open skulls and eating the brains, smashing bones and eating the marrow and eating the flesh. And a lot of large predators eat the organ meats out of an animal and leave a lot of the muscle meat behind. So we probably ate a lot of that. We probably ate um, a lot of you know, crustaceans and fish and stuff like that from rivers, streams, tide pools, and stuff like that. And the planet's covered with sites where human beings and pre-humans habitated over thousands of years, and it left all the bones and the shells and everything. So the science backs us up. The nitrogen isotopes backs us up. The carbon isotopes back this up, and on and on and on. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware of that. And so they see a movie like Earthlings, which to me is really just propaganda. It's meant to tug at your heartstrings or just manipulate you emotionally. You think every animal that gets eaten is abused before it's turned into food, you know, which really isn't the case. And there's a lot of science that goes into demonstrating that we're really meant to eat meat, and that all these plants that we eat now are relatively new. These are all plants that have been cultivated, because most plants are very toxic to human beings. Only maybe 1.5% of the plants are edible for human beings, and then it's to varying degrees. So, and that's, you know, for people with autoimmune disease, you're well aware of this. People have gluten intolerance, people who don't tolerate oxalates and lectins and stuff like that. Not to forget sugar, carbohydrates, and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people aren't aware that one of the easiest ways to cure type 2 diabetes is to stop eating carbohydrates, which carbohydrates come from plants. And of course, fats and proteins come from animals. Not that you can't get fats and proteins from plants, but most plants at best are 10% less efficient at delivering these nutrients. the proteins and fats in plants are less bioavailable. We just don't absorb them. And then they come packaged with anti-nutrients like phytates, where they block the absorption of some of the nutrients. So there's a lot of problems with it. Now here's a video where Paul Saladino is explaining his point of view on whether humans are real carnivores. Here's some archaeological evidence in a article. Tooth of Neanderthal found in France reveals the woman's diet was mostly made up of meat, not plants. Just throw that in there for some color. Here's the evolution of the human diet. It's a video that's available on YouTube. This is on carnivoreinfo.com. If you click on archaeological evidence, you'll see there's a whole bunch of videos and links. And then cholesterol. Cholesterol containing meat, animal meat, is not poisonous. It's not really the cause of heart disease. LDL, cholesterol, HDL, they're all part of the human mechanism. They're part of mammals, period. We make cholesterol, we make LDL, we make HDL, but we've also been consuming in our diet. And it didn't suddenly start killing us. We started, heart attacks were rare before 1900. And in fact, I don't think they entered the literature in the United States till well after 1900. And they didn't become common until probably the 40s and the 50s. And as we look at the excavation of mummies in Egypt and places like Iceland and stuff like that, we see these changes in human beings as crops are cultivated, particularly grains seem to be a problem. And I think teeth are the canary in the coal mine. I think a lot of carbohydrate-rich plant foods cause your teeth to get dental caries or cavities. Sweet foods, stuff like that. A lot of people are probably familiar with a book like this. This is from Weston Price. He went around photographing people and looking at their teeth. He was a dentist. There's a lot of information in here, a lot of photographic evidence. He studied what people ate and the effect it had on their teeth and their jaws, stuff like that. And that was before nitrogen isotopes have been isolated and studied, and it was before a lot of the archaeological digs have been done and stuff like that. And of course, cholesterol wasn't really well understood when Ansel Keys, promoted his hypothesis in the 50s, during the, starts with kind of with the Eisenhower administration, and from there things become policy, down the road, because they're like, well, we got to feed people. We're going to feed them what we're going to recommend they eat, and it was all a big mistake. And I understand that's why a lot of people believe a vegan diet is better. Now, when it comes to climate change and ecology, there's lots of links here on carnivoreinfo.com. You could just click on climate change and ecology. There's lots of links. There's, a lot of people think that cows create greenhouse gases and they're ruining the planet, but they're this tiny, tiny little fraction. And then when you look at the number of extinct megafauna that were here before, there were far more mammals walking around eating vegetation. So the planet came with all these animals before human beings. And yeah, in North America, you hear about how the buffalo were nearly wiped out when Europeans came and settled. But even before that, the mammoths, the mastodons, the woolly rhinos, the three-toed sloths were everywhere. Giant plant-eating mammals everywhere by the millions. And they're wiped out by a comet. Now, that ecology existed with all those animals, and that's how the Earth wanted it. And an impactor comes, hits the Greenland ice sheet, disrupts the climate, and a lot of those animals died off. But then a lot of animals, like bovine type animals like bison and thorax and stuff like that started taking over. So, anyways, the animals are supposed to be here. That's one of the ways that when there's more CO2 in the air, plants grow faster. But those plants are actually trapping carbon in the air, and things like prairie grass sequester that carbon in the soil. And if we return a lot of the areas that are turned into desert quite frequently by cultivation and wiping out animals, then that carbon in the air is then turned around and trapped in the plant in the form of plants. And that cycle of the animals eating those plants growing back with these massive root systems, keeps the soil intact, sequesters the carbon, and generates our food. So I think a lot of people just aren't aware of that. Cows don't actually destroy the environment. Coronary heart disease, I think a lot of people don't understand that, just like they don't understand cholesterol. Again, there's a coronary heart disease page on Carnivore Info with lots of links. And I'm adding links all the time. And the same thing, diabetes. I think a lot of people don't realize that diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is generally caused by consuming too many carbohydrates. If you're on a meat-based diet, you're not consuming enough carbohydrate to cause diabetes. In fact, a lot of people remedy their type 2 diabetes by going on a low carb or no carb diet. So I know there's these theories out there that have been promoted about, eating animal flesh causing diabetes, but there's literally thousands of people that have gotten rid of their type 2 diabetes, gotten off of insulin, stopped taking metformin, and they now have normal blood sugar, and all the symptoms of type 2 diabetes go away. And there's a number of people that are type 1 diabetics that are managing their diabetic symptoms on a carnivorous diet. And then, of course, there's the issue of Alzheimer's being described as type 3 diabetes. So there you go. I think a lot of people just aren't aware of that. Now, when it comes to cancer, uh, there's a video here. This is Dr. Sean Baker's channel, and the video is called Red Meat and Cancer. What's the deal? He talks about the studies and stuff like that. And then there's also a page on carnivoreinfo.com. Does meat cause cancer? It's a conversation between Paul Saladino and one of the, I'm trying to remember his name, but one of the famous vegan doctors. So anyways, check that out. I understand why people easily believe that like all these animals are mistreated and eating animals causes all these diseases. But I think we're a little bit past that. It's a matter of the newer, better information getting to people. So here's the source for your information. I mean, you can always do your own research. And then on top of that, you probably might want to check out some videos on evolution to understand how human beings evolved, why they evolved, because more and more of that is being understood. And of course, there's a page for that on carnivoreinfo.com. And then you can also check out some of the information on modern cattle ranching. Modern cattle ranching, oftentimes now, not only do they do things like protect natural water sources by using cattle tanks, they rotate the cows around, and then they also work in other animals, like they have chickens running around out there, pigs running around, turkeys and stuff like that. I have to wonder, they're trying to make food, sell us food made out of crickets and stuff like that. Why don't they just feed the crickets to the chickens and the turkeys? I mean, that's the kind of thing they naturally eat. Why don't you just let them eat that instead of feeding them grain all the time? Let them run around and eat crickets and bugs and stuff with the cows, like a lot of the modern ranchers are doing now. Let them care for the soil and expand the prairies and the savannas and stuff like that, rather than letting the good land go to waste. Guys like Frank Mitlunner are famous for lecturing about modern cattle culture and stuff like that. There's lots of videos with him being interviewed on YouTube, including on Human Performance Outliers with Dr. Sean Baker and Zach Bitter, two great guys. Wonderful interviewers, knowledgeable guys. Have lots of great guests on their show. And then, of course, Alan Savory. Oh, I missed it. I thought I had him in here somewhere, but maybe not. Alan Savory. Look up Alan Savory, Allen Savory, on YouTube and watch his videos. Get some idea. And then look at all the extinct megafauna. Look for that on YouTube, or look for that on Wikipedia or wherever. Go to the library and grab a book. You'll see that all these giant animals walked around on the earth, essentially much larger and much more numerous animals than anything like the modern wild animals, in addition to the modern livestock. And then you will have a more accurate sort of idea of what human beings are and what they're supposed to eat and what makes them healthy. Modern people are unhealthy primarily because of their food. When you eat the right food, you move around more, you want to do things, and you're healthier. And when your blood sugar is not high all the time, you don't get diseases like diabetes and insulin issues. The body is meant to have hormones like insulin be pulsatile. You have elevated levels of it all the time, it creates problems. And like I mentioned, your teeth. You eat a bunch of sugary foods, you're gonna have tooth problems. And foods like raisins and dates and even oats are associated with tooth decay. But you live a carnivorous, you eat carnivorous diet, and your teeth are fine. Your digestion is perfect. Um, a lot of people argue about that. There's a lot of good videos. If you want to watch a video about the evolution of man and how human beings are actually carnivores, check out look for one by Barry Groves. But anyways, I know a lot of people are going to be think this is all crazy nonsense, but truth is, if you take the time and you learn about the actual science instead of people's opinions about things, and you set aside people's emotions and feelings about things, you find out that human beings can be kind to animals, raise them as livestock, use them as food, and life goes on and people are healthy. And most of these modern diseases like obesity and diabetes and kidney disease and fibromyalgia, depression, anxiety, and stuff like that are greatly alleviated, if not eliminated, by eating a proper human diet, which is an animal-based diet, not a plant-based diet. So anyways, thanks for watching. It's more or less my rebuttal to Miss Queen Dugan. I think it's Dunan. Sorry. Anyways, I don't have it on the screen in front of me, but I believe that's her name. There it is, MissDoonaQueen. Sorry. Anyways, look, I understand. If you don't want to eat animals, fine, don't. But if you want to be healthy, I think it's the best way to go. And if you want to swap scientific papers, if you want to have another conversation, that's fine with me. But I appreciate everybody watching. If you could subscribe, give the video a like, share the link with other people. If you're going to engage people with an opposite of you, try and be friendly. Try and keep it civilized. I don't want to get in some sort of screaming or shouting match. I don't think people need to be talking past each other all the time. I think it's completely understandable that people think that a vegan or vegetarian or plant-based or whole plant-based diet is healthy. I get it. I understand why they believe that. But I think there's a good argument to be made that actually an animal-based diet is the best human diet. So anyways, thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please send the links around. Please leave comments. And thank you very much for watching. Feel better.